We believe that the story of Rama is our ancient history, that is, it actually happened and it happened in this country. The use of the term history in Upanishads is found in two Upanishads, namely Chandogya and Brihadaranya. At the time of Chandogya's Kalai and later on Shankaracharya, it was accepted that India is history. But there was no move to call our Ramayana history. It has fallen recently. Anyway, Ramayana is history from our point of view. Now this has become our religious belief. But now it has economic and political references have also been obtained. That is why the place which is mentioned as Pankavati in Ramayana is also in Nashik and also in the village of Parnashala near Rajamahendri. Also then the politics from Ram Mandir to Ramsetu starts. The Adams Bridge that connects these two countries can be called Ramsetu. For that, the testimony of NASA etc. is also taken. Now NASA has said that there is what you say is a bridge etc. at that place. It is clearly visible from satellite. That's all NASA says. We, however, dance happily as if we got evidence that the bridge was built by Rama. So according to A.L. Basham's wonder that was India, as well as Sanujat Goshia's legend of Ram, the story of Ram is somewhat similar to the Hindi films we mentioned above. It means that the original story of Ram took place in a different place and then our poets like Valmiki made it idealized by putting Hindustani style on it, culturalizing the names of the characters in it, and inserting the names of our villages, cities, rivers, lakes, etc. There is room to speculate that Dasharatha and Rama were kings of a minor kingdom outside India, says Basham. Sanujat Ghosh is an IAS officer. He studied the story of Rama from many aspects like folklore, archaeology, astronomy. From that, they came to the conclusion that Dasharatha and Rama's native country is Iran. The Aryans took this story with them when they migrated to the east. Valmiki transformed this folk tale into a beautiful epic. Rama is undoubtedly the symbol of the eastern invasion of the Aryas. Aryas also brought the names of their villages and rivers with them. The colonists in America named their new towns New York, New Orleans, Geneva. Similarly, these Aryas named their native villages to their villages and rivers to their rivers. So, Horavati in Iran became Saraswati. Harayu became Shariyu and provinces named Kosala, Pankal, Kishkinda also appeared here. A scholarly researcher, Milady Venkateratnam, has expressed a slightly different opinion. According to him, the story of Ram did not happen in Iran, but a little further in Egypt. We had a big discussion about this during pre-independence period. In the February, March and May 1935 issues of Maharashtra Sharda articles were printed on the basis of Venkateratnam's book titled Valmiki's Literature and the Origin of Ramayana in Ethiopia. It is good to imagine how much commotion would have been caused by it today. On the basis of Venkateratnam's book, Bhaskara Jadhav, a great truth-seeking thinker and leader, wrote some articles in Maharashtra Sharda. Places February 1936, Origin of Ramayana April 1936. These and some other research articles on Ramayana published in Mandir magazine around the same time have been collected in the book New Light on Ramayana. We shall see in a separate article the views expressed by Bhaskara Jadhav based on these texts, as well as from his study of the Valmiki Ramayana. References according to Milady Venkateratnam. The origin of Ramkatha is from Egypt. Ramesses was a great mighty king of one of the dynasties of Egypt. They say that after hearing his story, some poet wrote the poem Ramayana based on his imagination. The custom of translating a book in a foreign language has been around for a long time. It is famous for culturalizing the epic story in the language of Pesa. The tradition of translating foreign stories and genealogies and suppressing them in our books is loosely seen in the Bhavasi Puranas. Just as the genealogies of the kings of the Old Testament are found in the Puranas. The Egyptian origin of the story of the Ramayana. This book was prepared by covering up and giving Sanskrit form to some of the names and completely changing some of them, he asserted. Bhaskara Jadhav writes, Agastya as the Roman Emperor Augustus, Lopamutra as his wife Libya is greatly exaggerated in his Paxi, Venkateratnam invention. It must be scrutinized. He presented the truth that he got in front of the people. They are, who is multi-talented on this earth today? The Ramayana begins with a question asked by Valmiki to Narada. The verses of this question are found in the first canto of Balkanda. According to them and Narada's answer to them, there are speculations that Rama, Valmiki and Narada were contemporaries. Narada was well aware of Rama's character. Valmiki had no knowledge of Rama. If Rama was the king of Aryavarta, he should have known about it. Valmiki inquired from Dasharatha, who had traveled abroad. It is natural to make such an inquiry. This shows that even though Valmiki and Rama were contemporaries, they were from different countries. There is no doubt that Valmiki was of the same purpose. It was speculated that this must be a man from a distant country. So what is this country of Rama? Ajds has drawn some conclusions after studying the geography described in Ramayana. He says, Rama's city of Ayodhya, as described in Lankanagari Sarga 5, was in the land of Kosala on the banks of the river Sarayu. It was a city 48 kos long and 12 kos wide. Its shape was octagonal. All this city was full of houses and surrounded by moats and moats. From this it is assumed that the population of this Ayodhya must be much more than the population of Mumbai. This is Mumbai in 1935. Today's Ayodhya is shown on the banks of the Ganga river. In Ramayana she was by the river Sarayu. It is not known why and how such a change took place in the name. The second half of the 13th sloka of the 5th Sarga of Lankanagari and Sampati Vindhya, Karstetha. It is like this. So Ayodhya was full of camels and donkeys. How did these animals come in such large numbers to Ayodhya? Camels are of no use in the fertile region on the banks of the Ganga-Yamuna rivers. In Ayodhya, they are crowded with donkeys. This animal is inauspicious according to the Aryas. Shastragna that Upanayana should be repeated. To say that such beings were crowded in Ayodhya is like saying that Ayodhya must be outside of Aryavata. After Ram went into exile, he first went to Srinagar and from there to Prayag. Rama Bharat met at Chitrakuta and Prayaganjik. According to the geography of Ramayana, Ayodhya, Srinagar and Prayag are located in 3 directions. The distance from Ayodhya to Srinagar is the same distance from Ayodhya to Prayag and the same distance from Srinagar to Prayag. Then there was no reason for Rama to detour to Srinagar to reach Prayag. But he went like that. Interestingly, later Bharat too went the same way. This is miraculous. Basically, it does not need an address where Srinagar is located. This name is also unlikely to be Hindi. After reaching Prayag, Ram went to Bharadwaja's ashram. Bharadwaja told him to stay on the Chitrakoot mountain, 10 kos from there. As described in the Ramayana, it is a high and broad mountain with many peaks. But there is no such hill within 100 kos around Allahabad and Prayag. It would not be credible to say that the rivers Ganga and Yamuna remained the same, but the then Chitrakoot mountain disappeared. Bharat returned with Rama's visit. But he did not go to Ayodhya, but stayed and ruled in Nandagram. It is described that this village was at a distance of 1 kosa from Ayodhya. But today there is no address for this village near Ayodhya. However, there are villages with similar names in South India. There is a similar confusion regarding Lankanagari. According to Sarga 60, sloka 40 of the Kishkindhakanda, Angada-Hanumanadi met the monkeys at Sampati Vindhya and jumped from a mountain in the Kalinga country to Lanka. Memphis Parbat is in the country of Kalinga. Kalinga means the eastern region from Uganath to Krishna. It is east of Vindhya. Hanuman alighted on the perpendicular peak of Trakutachala, at a distance of 100 yojanas from Mount Mahindra. Sundarkand, Sarga 1, Shlo. 202 from there he saw Lanka on mountain peaks. Sarga 2, Slow. 8 from this, it seems that today's Sinaladwata or Ceylon, that is Sri Lanka, should not be Ravana's Lanka. To prove that Ceylon was Ravana's Lanka, a modest mountain in Tirunelveli district is named Mahendra Parbat. That place is famous as Rameshwar. But the legendary Mahendra mountain is between Krishna and Mayanadi. Ajds has shown that there are similar doubts about places and regions like Andakaranya, Jamnastan, Pampasarovar, Kishkinda, Pankavati etc. in Ramayana. Of course, it is accepted from this, that the story of Rama is not from this country, but how can it be said that it is from Egypt? Milady Venkataratnam and of course Ajds is of the opinion that the Ramkatha is originally Ramisakatha. So this Ramisu happened in Egypt in the 13th century BC, that is, about 3,500 years ago. Its period is 1292 to 1325. Before him there were 18 kings in Egypt. This was the 19th dynasty, the first dynasty king Jomina. His time was 5500 BC. This Mina king dug a large lake connecting the Nile River. It was a city between a lake and a stretch of the Nile. His name is Memphis. Bhaskara says that it is translated as Ajodhya in Greek. From that Ajodhya Ayodhya became. According to Ramayana, the city of Ayodhya was built by Manu. Memphis was founded by Mina, and it is natural to transform Mina into Manu. As Ramasu's Ram is easy to do. The description of Ayodhya in Ramayana is very exaggerated. Dasharatha's kingdom was very short. It is not possible for such a small state to have a big city like Ayodhya as its capital. On the contrary, Greek and Arab historians have written that Memphis is a big city. It is described in Ramayana that there was a crowd of camels and donkeys in Ayodhya. This description does not apply to cities in India. But it also applies to the Ajds in Egypt. Egypt is a land of rivers. Except for the great river Nile or Neel, the rest of the country is flat and sandy, with some hills in between. The description in Ramayana is similar. Rama does not have to climb big mountains anywhere. Ramayana does not even mention that Rama crossed the Vindhya Pavarta. According to the Ramayana, Ayodhya was situated on the river Sarga and originated from Lake Manas. Actually, 3 rivers originate from Manas Lake: Brahmaputra, Sutlej and Indus. Ayodhya is not on the banks of any of the 3 rivers. Today's Ayodhya is shown on the river Gogra. This is the former Sarga, but it does not originate from the Manas Lake. But the description of Ayodhya in the Ramayana applies equally to the Ajds. Meena is mentioned to have excavated a large lake connecting the Nile. The water in this lake was taken from the upper part of the river Nile. Since Ayodhya is located on it, it can be described as a river originating from Manasarovar. Ramayana comes from a place called Sringripur. The Rajagriha of that place was the ruler of Nishads. Nishad was a thieving and plundering tribe. There was a village called Sarin Kabir in Egypt. There is a mountain called Tel El Kabir. So these Kabiri people were also robbers. A mountain named Chitrakoot appears in the Ramayana. Today, 75 miles from Prayag, there is a modest hillock called Rama's Chitrakoot. Actually, in Ramayana this entap is said to be only 25 miles. There are 2 posts in Chitrakoot. Picture and code. Chitra means pictorially colored, glittering, and Koot means pile or peak. Chitrakoot Parbat means Chitram Kutam Yasyasa, meaning the mountain whose summit is pictorial or glittering. But such a mountain or mountain is not even near Prayag. There are marble quarries on the other side of the river near Memphis or Ajds in Egypt. They look very shiny in the sun. Tara to this on is called parallel to this. To the north is Dushari, which is Blood Mountain. This too can be called Chitrakoot Yasyasa Chitrakoot. There are many such paintings in Egypt. Ekander came from Egypt in Ramayana. Nandagram is mentioned near Ayodhya in Ramayana. But there is no evidence of Nandi temple near Ayodhya. This Nandagram is revealed in the ancient history of Egypt. Egypt means native Osiris. There was a god named Arshankara, and Osiris are the same. Bulls were left to this god. He was considered to be an incarnation of Osiris. These Nandis are kept in a special temple built for them. When Nandi died, they were mummified and kept in a tunnel. A Greek historian named Strabo has described this temple. Accordingly, during the search by the researcher Mariot, in 1850, the temple of a piece of Nandi and the place where Nandi's mummy was kept were found. This place was in the village of Saqqara near Memphis. There, under the ground, caves were carved into the rock and mummies of bulls were kept. Nandagram in Ramayana means this Saqqara village. Another thing to consider is that the words Apis and Basava are the same. Basava is a reciter of Nandi in Dravidian language. According to this, there is evidence that both Chitrakoot and Nandagram are not from Aryavarta, but from Egypt. There is a similar confusion about Lanka in the Ramayana. Ravana's capital Lanka is considered to be Sinaladvipa, today's Sri Lanka. But the description of Lanka given in Ramayana does not match Sinaladvipa at all. It is not far from Rameshwar by 100 yojanas. It is not situated on a big hill. The island of Lanka known to the Aryans is mentioned in astrology. The city was directly south of Avanti on the equator. First latitude passed through these 2 places. Sri Lanka is not on the equator and not south of Avanti. Then Lanka has to be taken to mean any island. In which country was Bharata in his time when Rama went into exile? What is this country exactly? The messengers sent to summon Bharata are described as passing through the Balhika country. This is today's Balkh. It can be guessed that the city should be. Ashvapati was the king of some country and grandfather of Bharata. This name also has a great meaning. According to Sarga 70, verses 19 to 23 of the Ayodhya-kanda, Ashvapati's gift to Bharata consisted of beautifully painted blankets, dogs with tiger-like strength, and 1,600 horses. Moreover, there was also a wealth of richly dressed swifts. Actually a donkey. It is called wealth. it is clear that it was a vehicle of prestige in any country. From this country should not be in Aryavarta, but on the other side of the Hindu Kush mountain. Not only this, but today's Afghanistan and Iran also belong to the Aryans, so it must be beyond that? From there, Bharat returned to Ayodhya in 7 days. If it is to be considered possible, it should not be Ayodhya as shown today, but somewhere else Memphis. Bhaskar Jadhav has given more detailed information in his articles. The curious should read it from the original. Giving all this information, Bhaskar says, on the whole, it cannot be said firmly that the villages in Ramayana were in a certain place in India. The same villages are located in the land of Egypt. From this, it seems true that Milady Venkataratnam says that the Ramayana story did not take place in Aryavarta at all, but took place in Egypt. But Bhaskar did not only examine the geography of the Ramayana. And, from that, it is clear that Ram is not from Aryavarta.